Ah, man, nothing like a good day to smoke some meat and maybe make a dungeon. What do you think, McGee? Should we make a dungeon? It's not a bad idea, boss. We usually do those on action movies. So what movie would we do? Frenchie, you got any ideas?
Tu pourrais la film des Prédateurs. C'est classique, non?
Predator is a good one. What do you think, McGee? Yeah, we can do Predator, boss. That one doesn't sound like a bad one to do.
Por qué est ton ballon en chapeau?
McGee, the baby's asleep. Don't you do it. Don't reenact that scene. I know which one you're doing. Oh yeah, it's go time. Ah!
Please don't be anticlimactic. Very, very.
What's up, my fellow wannabe war criminals and murder hobos? Welcome back to Geeks and Gunnery. Today we are doing a dungeon based on the first Predator movie. And we get to, you and your players get to possibly reenact the greatest dap of daps between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers.
You son of a bitch.
During this campaign at the very beginning. So, what you're going to want to do as a dungeon master is you're going to want to pick where you're going to put this if you're putting this in your campaign, obviously, because this is going to be a jungle setting, as was, our last dungeon, which was for Rambo First Blood. But this is going to be a mission where the party is assembled or called up by a high-ranking official of some type, and you can kind of play with that as a dungeon master. You guys can do whatever you want with that, depending on where your party is in your story or your campaign. If you're just wanting to do this like as an encounter for your campaign, or if you're just running this as a one-shot, then it really doesn't matter. You can just make up a character, be like General Eisenhower, that guy, something along those lines. Just make up a high-ranking military official or political official that calls your group together, because they are all men with particular sets of skills, or women with particular sets of skills, and then assemble them and then give them the details of the mission. They will be briefed, obviously, by said general or mayor, as well as an NPC that is going to go with them. So you guys are going to want to develop that NPC because you need your CIA spooky operative dude who is best friends with one of the party members from forever ago or whatever. So that way they are more easily convinced that this mission is on the up and up and that they're not all going to die brutal deaths at the hands of some space alien. Anyway, so in the first part of the movie, you have the infiltration, and then you have them slowly making their way to the first part of your dungeon, which is going to be that little village that Arnold Schwarzenegger and the rest of his group assault when they see that the people there are killing the hostages. Now, for this first group of baddies, you can make those whatever you want. You can make them kobolds, you can make them humans, you can make them goblins, something. Because in the movie, they wipe the floor with those guys. They blow them to pieces, everything. So it's like that fight should be satisfying, but also fairly easy, It shouldn't be over the top. Your party might incur some small wounds and stuff like that, but it should be fairly easy for them, because you want your special forces guys to feel like we are the best in the world. We are the best. We just wipe the floor with everybody. You don't want them to know what's coming for them, even though if you're a player and you're watching this and you want your DM to run this, you're definitely going to know it's coming, but you don't want your party to know that something else is lingering in the forest. Anyway, so make this fight kind of easy. You can kind of, like I said, do any of those smaller tier enemies, or if your party is already a very high level and this is something you're just putting them through just to kind of give yourself time to plan the rest of the campaign that you're putting them that you're doing, then you might want to beef up the bad guys. Use like ogres or something a little more sturdy, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you're gonna want to lay it out fairly simply. Now, I did a simple drawing just to kind of lay out what I would do. So now this up here would obviously be, if you've watched the movie, like the hillside where they kind of infiltrate down into all of these little huts and shacks down here. Now, there was a stairwell down in the movie to another set of shacks and a riverfront area, or I believe it was a river. Yeah. Now there was this little detail here. Now this little detail here is kind of fun if you want to add this in. You don't have to, but I think it would be a fun one. In the movie, Arnold comes down here to, it was a pickup truck that they had rigged up to be a generator of some sort for power for the rest of this. And he basically snuck down, unattached the belt on the wheel of the truck to whatever generator that they had ramshackled together. And then he threw a bunch of explosives in the back of the truck and then basically deadlifted the truck up off of its pedestal and then gave it a shove. And then the truck went whee all the way down here into this other building. And then, as action Hollywood movie go, big explosion, lots of dead people. It was fantastic. So if you want to include something like this, you can. If you're doing a fantasy setting, that might be a little bit more difficult. It would probably have to be something like automaton or construct in nature. Because if they were running like a generator and there was like 2 horses attached to this and they were just walking in a circle, you don't want to be that guy that attaches horses or attaches explosives to horses and then just lets the horses run in and then blow up. Because that would be a war crime. Now we're about war crimes here, but that just seems a little too far. Anyway, so you can do something like that.
Oh, hi guys. New clothes because a lot of unnecessary speaking in the part that I'm cutting out. So we're skipping ahead, but basically for this dungeon, what you want to do after the village part is push your party very hard, have them get ambushed a ton, so they have to use the resources a lot, and don't let them get long rests in, because you want the pressure to stay consistent like the Predator does in the movie. So when people go off on their own to do anything, ambush them. If they're with the group, ambush them again, ambush them a ton. And the whole point is to push them towards that final point of whether they make it to their final exfiltration point or not, doesn't matter. They either are going to have to kill the Predator or they're all going to die, because that's kind of the point of this campaign. That's kind of what the dungeon is going to be like. It's going to be constant, incessant pressure from the Predator the entire time they're trying to traverse through this jungle with the hostage. So, yeah, anyway, back to the video for suggested monsters.
Okay. Now, for monsters that I thought would be good for this, if you don't have time to build your own stat blocks, I went to the Tome of Beasts, because this is just a fabulous book of monsters. And I found a few that I thought would be good, and they wouldn't require too much reworking. They like the base stat block enough is, depending on the level of your party, you add some cool sci-fi tech to them, like the cloaking ability, the laser cannon that's on the shoulder of the Predator, the thermal vision, and some of its weapons like the spear, the arm blade type weapon, all of that stuff you know, all of those can be added to these fairly easily, and they would be just what I think really, really good Predator vibe like threats. Now, I know there is probably a homebrew stat block for the Predator somewhere out there. Somebody's probably made that, so if you want to go find that, you can. But these are monsters that I found in the Tome of Beasts that I thought would be really good for this. So you have the Dryad Duskhorn Thorn. This one I thought was really good just because it's a Dryad. The Predator's camouflages and also uses the trees a lot to move around. So something of a bit of a nature flair that is more likely to be in a fantasy setting, but also in a jungle. Something like this would fit really well. And their abilities are super nasty too. As well as they have spell casting, which if you're not wanting to go the like space laser cannon route, giving them a little bit of boost in spell casting would also be a simpler route to go and also give them what would equivalent to a laser cannon because that's what spells are. Now, the next one is fairly obvious. You get this one, the Lord of the Hunt. You're making a Predator. Like the Lord of the Hunt is just, you don't really need to do anything extra for this guy to make him a formidable foe, as well as make sense for this campaign being hunted by a single Predator. Lord of the Hunt works really well. Now, one that I thought was kind of fun, you would definitely have to make this one a little bit more humanoid in appearance, and you would definitely have to give it either some type of spell casting or the laser cannon and some of the other stuff. But the Lindworm I thought was really cool just because it looks terrifying, and if it could stand up on its hind legs and be like a humanoid predator alien thing and be able to turn invisible and have a cannon, this would be a nightmare to fight and get hunted by and get ambushed by. So yeah, that one was just, I looked at it and was like, that's cool. I could rework that into something. So Lindworm I thought was a good option. Now, this one I thought, out of all the ones that I found at the beginning, I thought would be terrifying. The Nightgarm, which is basically a werewolf, but it in the movie, in the you can hear when the predator is like looking at the, it's like it's picking up people's voices and then like mimicking them, which clicked with me on the Nightgarm, because the Nightgarm is a like werewolfian style, like lichen creature. But if it's say this guy, this Nightgarm, this actually girl, but successfully ambushes a person and one of your players and kills them, when it eats them, it can spawn a falseman and basically make a doppelganger of that party member that has access to all of their memories and everything. Now it does that falseman does get 3 physical characteristics that are completely different than the original. So there would be a way for your party to identify that this is not, this is not my buddy, this is not who came in with us. But they're completely loyal to the Nightgarm. So it would basically be the perfect way of like infiltrating your party and maybe leading them astray. And like if you did it really well, you could like end up with one dude left and all of the false men there, and then just like this horror movie end. I think this would be really cool if you could, if it worked out in like the DM's favor, like a lot. Like and you got those ambushes like down, the night garm would be just pièce de résistance, just amazing. Just like I want to run this. This is so cool. Okay, but yeah, the night garm is like one of my top contenders for a predator for this one shot / campaign like encounter. Now, if you were running just some lower level players through this, if you wanted to, and just like really keep it fantasy setting, I thought the Ogre Chieftain, this is a stat block down here, but this is what they look like. I thought an Ogre Chieftain would work really well because in their stat block, if you really didn't want to add any of the like fantasy technology stuff, it does say that this is a corrupted Ogre Chieftain. A corrupted Ogre Chieftain has 1 mutation from the list below. So you could run this as, and then you could give them, and there's not a like invisibility mutation for the Ogre Chieftain in this. You could give them that, and then also like allow your Ogre Chieftain, when you're running this game, running this little campaign, excuse me again, to like swap mutations every time it encounters the party. So like every time it ambushes them, it's got a new ability or a new mutation. And if you really wanted to, you could mutate it to combat strengths of the party every time it encounters them. So it does get stronger the longer they survive, the stronger it gets, which would push them to use more resources. So I thought the Ogre Chieftain was a good one just because it's got that, the corrupted Ogre Chieftain, because it's got that ability to mutate and change, which I thought would be really cool, especially if you really wanted to just stick with the fantasy aesthetic and not do the lasers and other stuff, because the Ogre Chieftain would be really easy to give him like a couple spells to give him some of those predator abilities like the thermal vision and the laser cannon. You could give him like 2 different spells and those would be covered. Or really lean into the mutation aspect of him and just be like, this is a really corrupted Ogre Chieftain that's just like super strong and can turn invisible and do all these other things. So those are the monsters that I think would be really good for this. I thought a Beholder would be kind of fun as well, but that's for like a super high level party that you're okay with murdering and not being friends with anymore, and you just want that TPK. Anyway, that's the vid. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what monsters you think would be fun to make a Predator style campaign with, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So long.
Predator.